Now, the 2024 NFL draft was probably more boring and more predictable than a lot of other drafts in the past few years, but there are still some players that I think just clearly won the NFL draft, both rookies and veterans. And after we talked about the losers, we've got to talk about some of the winners today, starting out with J.J. McCarthy to the Minnesota Vikings here. I don't think there's any question that J.J. McCarthy is in the most perfect landing spot for him possible. I don't think there's any question. With J.J. McCarthy, you're getting a guy for Minnesota that it had a 70+ completion percentage rating in 2023 and played on a winning culture that obviously won the national championship title. So this guy knows how to win, and this guy is already coming in very efficient, very elite with his efficiency. 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 2023. Now, the only problem is that he wasn't on a particularly pass-first offense with Michigan, and he's coming into a totally different situation. Like, Minnesota is pass-first. They have a head coach who is a former quarterback in Kevin O'Connell, so you know he wants to maximize J.J. McCarthy to his extent. Now, that, in my opinion, is only going to elevate him even more. And of course, we don't even need to talk about this, but it's fun to talk about because he has some of the best weapons you could dream of as an NFL quarterback as a rookie. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1. Now, they need to sign him. That should be their next order of business immediately after the draft is over. Sign Justin Jefferson right away, because it doesn't really get better for a rookie quarterback than to throw to Justin Jefferson. You could argue CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. He theoretically could grow for years with Justin Jefferson there. And if Justin Jefferson leaves, they have, in my opinion, if not the best, one of the top 5 wide receiver 2s in the NFL, Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison is absolutely an elite wide receiver 2 at this very moment in time, because he's never going to see double coverage. So if J.J. McCarthy doesn't want to squeeze it in, he could just find Jordan Addison on the other side of the field for a massive gain. And then he'll get T.J. Hawkinson back at some point, and he'll have Aaron Jones to help clean up some dump offs if nobody is there. Literally at every level of the field, J.J. McCarthy has winners, man. So J.J. McCarthy, we can't see where he's going right now in underdog drafts, but last time I checked, he was closer to the quarterback 20, quarterback 25 in underdog best ball drafts. So you know that price is going to shoot up here, probably closer to quarterback 15, just because he is walking into a situation where there's no question he could be a very good fantasy quarterback immediately out of the gate. Now, the next guy I want to talk about here is someone that probably will come out of left field. He's not a rookie. In fact, he's a relatively older running back that has had major injuries in his career. I said this before the NFL draft. I think the Chargers were one of my favorite teams to watch just based on what they were going to do. They picked the offensive lineman I thought they were going to in the first, and they just continue to build an already very good offensive line. And the guy who benefits directly from it, since they did not get Blake Corum as I thought they might, Gus Edwards. I'm telling you guys, you need to draft him right now. Gus Edwards, I said this several weeks back on a must-draft running back video, that Gus Edwards was must-draft just simply based on his price at the time and where he was going, combining with the potential upside he could see. Now, of course, before the draft, there was lots of elements to this, like what if they did draft a running back? What if it was Blake Corum? He'd probably start right away. There was a lot of elements that were unanswered, but now we have an answer for them, and it is Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, who is coming off an Achilles injury. So the chances that Gus Edwards sees 15, 20 carries per game is 100% in the cards. They didn't get anybody. They got a running back later on in the draft. Gus Edwards looks like he's the guy. So as of right now, the Chargers' offensive line, as I said, just continues to rebuild. So heading into the NFL draft, based on Pro Football Network's offensive line rankings, they already had a top 15 offensive line before the NFL draft. They have Rashawn Slater, they have Zion Johnson in the interior. Now, they lost their center, probably going to be out. They replaced their center with Carolina's center from the free agency. But now they get Joe Alt at number 5 overall. The best tackle by far in the NFL draft. He'll be on the other side of Justin Herbert. So I think that probably benefits Herbert more than it benefits Gus Edwards. But the other factor of this is, like I said, they didn't pick a running back with significant capital day 1 or day 2. It's Gus Edwards' show. So just based on where he is going, man, I'm telling you guys that the upside is absolutely there, and you need to get in on it as soon as possible using code FFN at signup through Underdog Fantasy to get a 100% deposit match up to $100 so you could get in some drafts and get Gus Edwards immediately. Now, Keon Coleman is now a Buffalo Bill. He was an early second-round pick, wide receiver out of Florida State, and if you've been watching my Dynasty channel, Dynasty Fanalysts, you'll know that I've talked about Keon Coleman, and he's kind of bounced around my rankings a little bit. Now it's clear that the upside is there, and he's going to shoot up fantasy football rankings. So he walks into a situation, obviously they've got the second best quarterback in the NFL, right behind Mahomes, is Josh Allen. And not only that, their wide receiver one, Stephon Diggs, for years is gone. And not only him, Gabe Davis, the number 2, is gone. So who do they have before Keon Coleman? Curtis Samuel, a lot of second to third tier talent at the wide receiver position. So even if Keon Coleman doesn't exactly pan out to be a 1,500-yard receiving type of guy per season, the chances that he gets 1,100, 1,200 yards, just based on the volume he will see, warrants more fantasy football draft capital in order to take Keon Coleman. So Keon Coleman, you were getting him in like the middle to late middle rounds of fantasy football drafts on Underdog. His price is going to go up. There's no question about it. He's just in a position where you cannot ignore the draft capital Buffalo spent on him, the team that he's on, and the quarterback he plays for now. So this is a guy immediately I could see getting 80-plus targets year one. And I'm sure they're going to want to give him more than that. They'll probably want to give him over 100 targets. We'll see if he can develop into that. But I do know this. Keon Coleman is in a great landing spot. He's going to get opportunities right away. So that means year one in fantasy football drafts, Keon Coleman's a guy that I'm already looking to take. And I know that other people will too. That's why his fantasy football ranking is going to go up. Now, the next guy found the most perfect landing spot. I don't care who else we talk about on this list, and there's several more rookies we're going to talk about. Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs is literally best case scenario for him in particular. Because, listen, everybody would fit good with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? We could have thrown Ladd McConkey to the Chiefs. We could have put Keon Coleman to the Chiefs and said, yes, go get these guys in fantasy football drafts. The difference between Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, who went to the Panthers, RIP to his fantasy value. The difference between those guys and Xavier Worthy is that I believe in their versatility more than I believe in Xavier Worthy's. Xavier Worthy was only going to fit with a big arm quarterback who can take the top off the defenses but needs that weapon because they don't have a deep threat. Xavier Worthy walks into that situation, and I will tell you this right now, he will be their first legit deep threat since Tyreek Hill. Am I saying he's Tyreek Hill? Of course not. Tyreek Hill is a Hall of Fame player. He's Hall of Fame. He could do everything. Xavier Worthy can't do everything. Like, he's not super consistent over the middle. He's not even consistent with wide receiver screens. But he does consistently burn you deep on a consistent basis. And he has reliable hands on the deep balls as well. They've tried to do that with, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They tried to do it with Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman. Xavier Worthy is going to do that because not only does he have more speed than those guys, I think he does have better hands as well. This ranking is going to shoot. He was around the wide receiver 40, wide receiver 45 range. He's going to be a top 24 wide receiver. You watch. This ranking is going to skyrocket for the obvious reasons. Xavier Worthy, I think, just based on pure upside and based on his ability to get you 10 to 12 touchdowns in a single season this year, I don't think that's out of the question. Do I think he'll be a 80 to 90 catch guy with 1,200 yards? No, I don't think he's that. What I do think is 60 catches for 900 to 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. I think that is the type of upside we'll see from Xavier Worthy. So his draft price, that's shooting up. The next rookie on this list right here is, relatively obvious, but the thing about Caleb Williams is that his stock was already high. Like, he was already going at a quarterback 12 value in Underdog fantasy football drafts. This has been unlocked to a whole nother level, though. Chicago is doing everything they can to make Caleb Williams successful. Not only do they have DJ Moore before they drafted him, they traded for Keenan Allen about 2 months ago at this point, and then now they take the third best, arguably second best wide receiver in this class, Rome Odunze. They have 3 alpha wide receiver ones in that Chicago Bears offense. Now, is Keenan Allen going to be the same guy? I think it's worth questioning because he's been injured. He's in his 30s now. Chances are good that he'll probably take at least a dip in production because if nothing else, there's so many elite options. But this guy has a stable tight end as well. Cole Kmet, don't forget about him. $50 million plus tight end right here in this offense has done well for years with Justin Fields. He provides stability if nothing else. But I don't think he even needs that. 3 elite wide receiver options. Caleb Williams is going to go from quarterback 10, quarterback 12. I probably see him shooting up to quarterback 10-ish. That's the move we're seeing here because it's a guy who obviously has an elite arm talent, can throw any angle, anywhere on the field. He also has rushing upside as well. So that means that the pocket breaks down with Chicago Bears, their offensive line is still a little bit shaky, improving but shaky. He can get you another 300 on the ground. Year 1. So Caleb Williams, I think, just walks into a great situation. Not as great as JJ McCarthy, but I do think his upside is definitely much higher than it was before the draft with the addition of Rome Odunze, and that's going to shoot him up in draft price. Now, the next guy on this list right here is going to see an uptick in fantasy rankings. It won't be immediate. This one is an overtime thing because the disappointing rookie season of Quinton Johnson obviously can't be denied. It can't be ignored. This is a player I've talked about several times this offseason already. And I've already got him on over half of the leagues that I'm in. And I'm in 10 total leagues. I've drafted him in, I think, 6. And I will keep drafting him. Quinton Johnson, honestly, I think he had best case scenario. Because the other guy that I'm talking about here, and the last guy on the list, Ladd McConkey, is the perfect fit for both of these guys. So both of these guys, we're going to see their prices go up. Now, with Quinton Johnson in particular, he has first-round capital attached to him. He's a player that I was never big on. I didn't love the prospect. Still don't love the player. But it's in the ideal situation because, yes, I'm sure he's going to get 80-plus targets this year. He doesn't have to be the wide receiver 1 undisputed in this offense, though. Ladd McConkey is the route runner of this group. And that's the problem that Quinton Johnson saw, is he's not a route runner. He's not a crisp route runner. He's a big guy, a clone of Mike Williams. Big and physical, can go get you a deep ball. Ladd McConkey is the Keenan Allen to Quinton Johnson being the Mike Williams. Ladd McConkey is an elite route runner, one of the best in the class, just wasn't super productive in Georgia. Ladd McConkey with Justin Herbert obviously raises his upside, and just because of the fact that there's 2 guys now, Quinton Johnson, Ladd McConkey, and Josh Palmer be an occasional number 3, Quinton Johnson is going to go from like wide receiver 55 to probably the wide receiver 40, 45 range. And Ladd McConkey is probably going to shoot up to wide receiver 30, 35, 36 range. Both of these guys, you know what the Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver room looks like now. So there's no questions as far as who's getting volume. Both these guys will get volume. And Ladd McConkey, I think, is great in this offense because he's a great route runner with a great quarterback. And I really do think that he was perfect for Quinton Johnson because it takes the pressure off Johnston to develop as a crisp route runner. That's not who he is. He's a great go-getter, deep ball type of player. Hopefully, we'll see him utilize that more in his second season because I think the landing spot for Ladd McConkey is going to shoot the draft prices up for both him and Quinton Johnson. Now make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support.